Listen, we all get caught up being too busy sometimes to enjoy the finer things in life. However, this distraction from the present moment can take on a life of its own, to the point where we experience stress. Our next guest is a PhD clinical psychology researcher, certified clinical hypnotherapist, psychology professor, and spiritual leader here in San Diego. She's here to give us 3 ways to deal with stress. Please welcome one of my favorite people on this planet. Aisha Sunesha is here. Aisha, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Derek. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for
and
having
being on the
me.
show. This is a really hot topic.
Yeah.
Everyone's experiencing stress. It seems like we're getting more and more stressed out as a society. Once you start to just take a look at what's going on, you see people stressed out everywhere you go.
Absolutely.
How do you suggest that we deal with this?
So we know that stress is a part of life, right? There's no escaping it. So you're right. It's not just about what is it about stress, but how do we deal with it? That's the most important thing. So we've got 3 things we're going to talk about today. One is the breath. I know that's a favorite topic of yours, something that you practice quite regularly.
Absolutely.
We're also going to talk about this whole present moment awareness with the breath. And then we're going to look at some other things like perfectionism, this idea of things having to be perfect, and also cognitive distortions, believing our thoughts or actually questioning our thoughts or challenging our thoughts. There's a couple of different ways, 3 different ways that we can look at how to manage stress and have a better, healthier lifestyle.
You know, you say breath, and I think people go, breathe. Oh yeah, it makes sense. Take a deep breath. You hear people say that sometimes. Hey, take a deep breath. You know,
Right.
but we don't do it very much.
We don't.
We don't do it enough. Let's
True.
put it that way. So how do you suggest that someone who maybe experiences stress a lot, has a stressful job or a stressful existence for whatever reason, how can they use the breath to help them sort of separate from that anxiety?
Well, the breath, first of all, let's look at why it's so important to breathe, deeply breathe from the diaphragm. We know that deeply breathing reduces stress levels. It actually increases our vibrational frequency. It brings down our blood pressure. We know it increases or strengthens our immune system. So there's a lot of benefits of breathing very deeply. So a lot of times we're breathing very shallow from our chest instead of breathing from our diaphragm. So the point here is that we want to take even 15 minutes a day. Research shows that 15 minutes a day of deep breathing can actually provide us with those health benefits that we're looking for and bring down stress levels. So the way that I look at breath is, think of your meditation practice, right? Meditation helps you to relax, bring down stress, but you can't meditate everywhere, or you can't meditate all the time. But the breath is a great way for you to get into that meditative state. So let's say this morning you were coming to the studio, you used your car as a vehicle to come to the studio. If we want to get to that meditative state, that state within us that already exists, is that part of us that's zen or centered or grounded, what we would call our higher self, the part of us that has infinite wisdom, the part of us that's already knows all the answers. If we want to get to that state, we use the breath as a vehicle to get there.
Interesting. I'm using my breath as a vehicle while you're talking, just
yeah.
listening to your voice. And it's getting me there. Taking those deep breaths and just consciously doing it, I think, is what you're saying, right?
Absolutely.
As we're all breathing all day.
All day.
Yeah, that's an autonomic thing. But when we're talking about breath in this particular circumstance, you're saying breathe with your diaphragm. You're saying you want to breathe deeply.
Right.
So consciously take a deep breath until you can't take a breath anymore.
Right.
Breathe in all the way until you've maxed it out,
Yeah.
and then just slowly sort of release that. Just
Exactly.
doing that 2-3 times consecutively can change your mood like this.
It can.
So imagine, spending 10 or 15 minutes a day doing something like that. It really can lower your stress levels. I practice it personally, and it works extremely well. And the more you can do it, I think the better.
Absolutely.
Personally, and of course the Buddhists believe that you can do it constantly, no
Yeah.
matter what you're doing. I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm trying. But the other thing that you mentioned when we were talking about this was, and I think this is extremely powerful, is to question your thoughts.
Right.
Explain what you mean by that.
Well, questioning your thoughts, there's a saying that one of the most dangerous things in the world is an unquestioned thought. So how often do we think that our thoughts are facts, and how often do we think that the fact is reality? And in fact, we could be having thoughts, if we don't question them regularly enough, we could be having thoughts that are distorted. And by distorted thoughts, there's plenty of distorted thoughts. I'll give you a few examples. Overgeneralization. Let's say I'm late for work, and then I start to think, because I'm late, I might, get in trouble, or I might get fired. And then if I get fired, I might lose my apartment, and Can you see where I'm going
Yeah.
with this? I start to overgeneralize. Even something like catastrophizing, making something bigger than it is. Black and white thinking, that's a cognitive distortion. I'm perfect or I'm a failure, and there's nothing in between. So when we have a distorted thought, the three quickest ways to think about, is this a thought that is healthy or distorted, is these three simple things that I use. Is my thought accurate? Is it healthy? And is it helpful? So when I'm feeling stressed, is my thought accurate? Meaning that...
Let me write this down.
Sure.
Accurate,
Accurate, healthy,
healthy,
and helpful.
and helpful. That's
So
beautiful.
I'm stressing about getting a job. And if I'm stressing, is that thought accurate? Meaning that if I stress about the job, will I get the job? Just stressing or worrying about it, will that help me? That thought is not accurate. It's not going to make a difference one way or the other. In fact, it might actually not help me as much as if I
Might hurt
do
you.
stress. It might hurt me, exactly. So it's not accurate. Is it healthy? Is it helping my body? Is it actually helping my immune system? Is it strengthening my body? Or is it actually adding to all kinds of health issues that I could be having because of stressing out so much? So is it healthy? If it's not healthy. And then last one, is it helpful? Will I actually get that job faster if I think or stress?
You know, and I think something that we should put in there, which is also really important to consider when you're questioning your thoughts, is do I know that I'm right?
Right, that's a good
Because
one.
so many times we think that we know what the ideal situation is. In other
Right.
words, someone got in front of me, they're driving very slowly, they're causing me to be late,
Yes.
and we think that that's bad
Yes.
because we feel like we should be there sooner or faster, but we don't know, maybe that could be helping us in some way. Maybe it could be keeping us from getting into a car accident or something like that.
That's a great point.
So we all, am I necessarily correct?
Absolutely.
Do we know that we are correct? And if we look at the thoughts that we're having sometimes when that arises, we'll find that we don't know. We've made huge assumptions that what we think is actually the best possible outcome for us.
Right.
So I think that goes right along line with just questioning your thoughts is it accurate? And I would go another step and say, do I know for sure that it's accurate? Because a lot of the times we won't.
That's
And that
so
right there will
true.
take so much stress off of you immediately when you realize, hey, I'm not right all the time.
Absolutely.
You mean I don't have all the answers? This is not 100% all me?
Right. And
It's
there's
not.
a natural flow to the universe, right? There's a natural flow to things. When we are actually more in tune with the natural flow, things work out a little bit better than when we get in our own way.
Right.
And
And,
kind of-
and even if they don't, they seem like they do because
they
we're not
seem-
in the way of it. Another thing that was big on here for me to look at is embracing our own mistakes.
Right.
Embracing our own flaws, for example. You've told me that when people are stressed, a lot of times it's because they haven't embraced these things and they're really deeply involved in self-judgment. How do we get out of something like that if it's stressing us out?
Right. So perfectionism, I think that's the big buzzword right now that people want. And I'm guilty of this. I think I'm guilty of all these things,
Yeah,
which
we
is
all
why
are.
I can talk about them. This idea of I have to be perfect, I have to look perfect, I have to, be a perfect mom, be the perfect wife, be the perfect whatever. So when you look at this perfectionism, I wanted to differentiate, first of all, healthy striving and perfectionism, because we also don't want to say that, striving or having goals is a bad thing. So healthy striving is in a very internal state. It's about myself. It is my own self-improvement. It's saying, I'd like to improve, I'd like to grow, I'd like to evolve, I'd like to get better. And perfectionism is external, and it's about other people. What will they think of me? How will I look to them? How will I be judged or criticized or evaluated? So let's look at the two different things here. Healthy striving is something that we want. Perfectionism, however, is not, because research shows that perfectionism does not lead to success. We would think that people that want to be perfect, they want to be perfect to be successful or happy. It actually leads to depression, anxiety, and addictions.
It's very prohibitive because
It
if everything
is.
needs to be perfect, it never will be.
It never will be.
So that'll keep you from moving forward. I see that
Absolutely.
a lot, actually,
Yes.
in my day. And I always tell people that if you're worried about what other people think about you, you're just judging yourself through them.
Absolutely.
And that's all you're doing. And so if you
true.
recognize that it's just a self-judgment and it's
Yes.
really not what they think that matters,
Right.
then I think that helps you sort of kind of come to the reality that, hey, this is about me. This is me and what I'm doing to me, and not what they're doing to me.
Absolutely.
Which is huge when we're talking about stress.
Right.
Oh, great stuff. Aisha Suneja, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your time. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, commercial free, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else.